New push for peace in Ukraine. Secretary of State John Kerry joining high-level talks now in Kiev before the leaders of France and Germany head to Moscow to meet with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Now that's why it's important, right? Because meantime, a Pentagon study finds that President Putin may have Asperger's. Here's what the report says, quote, his movement patterns and his micro-expressions analyzed on open source videos so clearly reveals that the Russian president carries a neurological abnormality. This profound behavioral challenge has been identified by leading neuroscientists as Asperger syndrome, an autistic disorder which affects all of his decisions. Time to bring in some real talk with Tony Sayegh, Fox News contributor, and Bernard Whitman, former Bill Clinton pollster and CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. Asperger's, I mean, we know that that's on the autism spectrum. Bernard, does it matter? How does this play into how Putin deals with the rest of the world?
You know, I don't know whether Putin has Asperger's, autism, or whether, in fact, he's secretly gay, which some of my friends in Russia in the know have said. And that would actually help to explain some of his virulently anti-gay attitudes. The fact is, he is a dangerous megalomaniac who subjugates his own people to avoid having to deal with his corrupt economy. This is a guy who's dangerous, who can't be trusted. And I think if you actually look at the report, it does suggest that he is someone who shouldn't be cornered into making decisions in front of a large public group. That is interesting information.
It is.
But frankly, the most important thing is the guy cannot be trusted.
What do you think?
Look, psychological profiles have always been helpful in dealing with world leaders through history. We do it now, frankly, with Middle Eastern leaders. Gaddafi was the subject of a very intense study done by our government, psychological profile. The issue here is that none of this is really medically conclusive. We've not done a brain scan.
Right?
We don't have any of his medical records. We don't have anything like that. I would assert that probably his behavior is also heavily influenced by the fact that for decades he was a very high-level senior KGB officer.
No doubt.
And has those type of tendencies as well. But it is helpful to know. But to Bernard's point, this is a megalomaniac who I think we have systematically seen do things that have been bizarre and defied what you would think are
like
reasonable
taking his shirt
on the
off
world
and stuff
stage.
like that, right?
And invading the Ukraine.
Yeah, I was just being a little lighthearted, but yes, on a much more serious note, what the heck are we going to do about Ukraine? Okay, I want to move on to this because this new study out on political hostility becoming more personal, affecting everything from hiring to marriage choices. So we went on the streets to ask about cross-party dating and marriage.
Do you marry, or are you married to anyone who would be the opposing political party?
Never. I don't think it matters. I would marry somebody from any party.
She has her ideas and I have mine, and neither one of us are willing to, I guess, meet in the middle.
Oh, not at all. Some of our best friends in the world are differing political parties, and they're married, and they seem to work it out just fine.
All right, good news for them, because look what this study says. I mentioned finding a dramatic jump in people who would be unhappy if their children married someone from the opposite party. 33% of Democrats and 49% of Republicans saying they'd be upset, up from just 4 and 5% back in 1960. What's going on, Bernard? Because this mirrors what's happening on Capitol Hill as well. Everything is so much more divisive now.
It absolutely does. And, you know, my boyfriend actually teases me about being a closet Republican because I'm pro-fracking. But look,
because you're spending time with me.
We get along.
Okay, is your boyfriend Republican or Democrat?
He's a very strong Democrat.
Okay.
But look at my parents. My parents have been married for 5 decades, and until the Clinton re-election campaign, where I mostly converted my father to the correct path, they were of opposite parties. I think it is reflective of the divisiveness in American society today, and we see that very much on Capitol Hill, where it makes huge news when the two parties can actually sit down together and have lunch for the first time, as they did yesterday.
And say the word bipartisan.
Yeah.
What do you think about the study?
Look, much of it is intuitive, especially if you think about the state of affairs today, where we do have about as divided a country as we ever had on partisanship. You know, when President Obama took to the State of the Union to lament the lack of political civility, it was ironic to me because he's really actually ushered in probably the most personality-driven divisiveness. You know, when you disagree with George Bush, it could have been on the Iraq War, it could have been on economic policy, tax cuts. President Obama has literally bifurcated the American people in a way that I really do think, unfortunately, pieces us against each other based on our politics. That's what's translating into this data.
Let's see who the next president is if they can heal that wound.
You're not going to bifurcate
Tony and Bernard.
Take it easy.
Thank you. Got to get to my take now. Here it is.